have Jeff here, and Jeff put me on the spot this afternoon at lunch because he knows I play the harp. So I'm going to take off my program director hat and put on my harpist hat and just open up with a few tunes and then introduce Jeff. So it's in honor of St. Paddy's Day, and so I thought I would just kind of do a little Irish, a little Scottish, I threw in some Norwegian in there too. So anyway, here we go. The first couple of tunes, you probably know the Ash Grove, and that's Welsh. And then I'm going to segue into a piece called Planxty Hewlett. And a Planxty is a tune in honor of the patrons, and this is O'Carolan. If anybody knows Irish tunes, you may know O'Carolan. He was 15th, 16th century. He was a harper, he was a blind harper. He contracted smallpox when he was a child, and his father's employer's wife took pity on him and taught him a trade, which was the harp. Now you might think this is a small harp, and it is, but not in O'Carolan's day. So he had a horse and a harp. So it was pretty small, and he would go around the countryside and he would play for patrons. And so this Planxty Hewlett that you will see here was a patron Hewlett. And that's how he made his living, just kind of staying and writing tunes for people. And so there's over 200 tunes that are still in, circling around today. So that's in honor of Carolyn. So I will begin with Ash Grove and then move into that. And then the first thing you always want to do is make sure all your levers are up. So it's a teaching moment. So guitarists and pianists and whatever, they have whatever they need on their fingers. And harpists, we have what is called a diatonic instrument, which means do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And to make other things, we have these funny little levers. And so if you hear some stuff that sounds a little chromatic, maybe I forgot a lever. so we're gonna go from the Celtic Isles to, I don't know, Norway. This piece is called Nordic Fiddler's Block, and I learned it from a harpist. It's beautiful. You can check that out on YouTube. So it's 3 violinists or fiddlers, as it were. But I love it on the harp. So, what you've all been waiting for. So Jeff Snow has been with us before. He was here a year and a half ago for Christmas, did a Celtic Christmas. And I got an email from him probably last fall that said, hey, I'm retiring. I've done it. I've been around the world, or at least this part of the world anyway, for a long time. And he's hanging up, well, he's not hanging up his musicians, his music or his instruments at all. But he is gonna take a rest from the intensive traveling, which is a lot. So we are delighted to have him back. He's gonna regale us with songs and stories and music from Ireland and Scotland and wherever you want to regale us, wherever, whatever you want to do is fine with us, is what I'm trying to say. But I just want to give a shout out before I invite Jeff up that we couldn't do this without the Friends. And so the Friends are just a wonderful support for the library. They are just there for us if there's a program that maybe our budget doesn't cover. They're there. They do babies for books for babies. They do. They're there in the summertime at the farmers market, selling books and such. And of course, upstairs in the library, that foyer, there's always people there. You open the door and you're always bumping into somebody, and that's their baby as well. With just getting books out to people and just helping out the library and with programming, as I said. So I just want to thank them so much for tonight. And without further ado, Jeff, thank you.
Hi. I just made a mental note. If I'm ever playing somewhere with Judy again, I'm going to go first. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for indulging me. because she did that for me. I asked her today if she would play a few things, because I know of her reputation as a wonderful artist, and I never heard her play. And Waterbury, Vermont is not a place where I normally show up. So thank you. That is an old English tune. Can you hear me all right, yes?
Yes.
It's an old English tune from the 1600s. We know it for most of the year as Greensleeves. We take it out at Christmas time and we lay another set of words up on top of the melody, and we call it What Child Is This? When you take a tune and you start stripping away the melody and putting different words up on top of it, that's sometimes in the music lexicon called piggybacking a song. And that's not terribly uncommon. If you think of the children's song A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and Bob, Bob, Black Sheep, all have the same music. They just have different words. You didn't know that, did you? You did know that? Okay, okay. Right. Okay, so I've been challenged, she knows that. I got one more. What Beach Boys song has that music? Yeah, you'll never get it. You're thinking I made that up, aren't you? If you think back to the early days, the beginnings of the Beach Boys, and their first records were all about cars and surfing and things like that. I think it's their second album, but it might have been their first or their third. It's in the first three. On every one of those first 3 or 4 albums, they did an a cappella song because Brian Wilson just loved to mix the voices. So if you go back and you listen to the early Beach Boys albums, there was always one a cappella song on there. And on one of those first 3 albums is a song called And Your Dream Comes True. You can find it on YouTube. And if you go and listen to And Your Dream Comes True, listen to it and try and sing Bob, Bob, Black Sheep. The rhythm is ever slightly so different, but you'll have no trouble at all singing it. Brian Wilson was really good at stealing a melody, and off he went. I have played for you an English song. And during our adventure tonight, we are going to visit all 4 of the major Celtic lands. We've been to England, we'll go to Ireland, Scotland, and Wales at some point tonight. And we're also going to hit the fifth Celtic land. Yeah, and I can see some people going, there's a fifth Celtic land? Yes, there is. And I'm going to plant that one right there and just leave it right there for a while. Let you think about that. But in the meantime, let's go to Scotland. Oh, he told you what it was? He did?
He
Just a
thinks, he
guess.
thinks he knows.
Just a guess.
Keep it, hold on.
I'm probably wrong.
Well, I'm going to make you look really smart later. Even if it's wrong, I'll tell you you're right. We're going to go to Scotland. And let us get this out of the way very, very quickly tonight. I am a Scot. I grew up in a very, very Scottish household. My dad was a drummer in a bagpipe band. So when I was born, they started me playing the drums when I was 18 months old. I was born in August. My first Christmas, I was 16 months old or something like that. And my Christmas gift that year was a marching drum. What 16-month-old child wouldn't love a marching drum for Christmas? And off it went. And here we are a whole bunch of years later. I'm up here in Waterbury, Vermont, and I'm not playing much drums anymore. That planted the seed. So when I was growing up, it was bagpipe tunes and Scottish folk songs and all kinds of things like that rolling around in the house. And some of the things you hear me play tonight will be things that I first heard as a wee lad back in those days. So, when I became a dad, many years after that, I raised my children. I have 3 boys. I raised my children the way that I was raised. Because as parents, that's what you do. That's just what's normal and what you understand. So, picture this if you can. My boys are adolescents. They're, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old or whatever they were. And pack them all in the car. We're going to go off on the family adventure. We might even been coming up here to the ice cream place just up the street. We did that one a couple times. And I would pop in a cassette tape, because that's what the music medium was of the day back then, of bagpipe music. And off we go for 6 hours in the car, singing bagpipes. Yeah, they didn't like that. It's what I knew. It was what was normal for me. So, 5 years ago, it was the year before COVID, so I think it was about 5 years ago now. My birthday rolled around, and I went out to the mailbox. And in the mailbox was a small package from one of my sons who now lives in South Carolina. I'm sure that some of you have children who have moved away, and you know that remembering you on your birthday in any form, shape, or manner is a really big deal. A text message, you're jumping up and down because they remembered your birthday. So a package was a really, really big deal. I got excited. I went in the house and I put it on the kitchen counter and opened it up so ever carefully, and inside the box was a test kit from Ancestry.com. I thought about that for a moment, and I called my son and I said, "Thanks for remembering me on my birthday. That was very kind of you. What's your point?" And I got the, "Well, Dad, my point is this. When my brothers and I were young, it was Scottish this and Scottish that. And you even had us believing that McDonald's was a Scottish restaurant. And now we're going to find out exactly how Scottish you really are." I was not the least little bit concerned, and I'll tell you why. This was back in the days before the internet. My uncle had gone back to Scotland and done, and you have to go from village to village and check all the city clerks and all the records and write everything down. It was like 20 pages of typed stuff. I had that. I knew where we came from. I knew where everybody lived and how far back the Scottish lineage was. I was not the least bit worried. So I sit here tonight very proud to tell you that according to Ancestry.com, I am 83% Scottish. That is a very big number. That is a very big number. Those of you who are parents will also know how much fun I got out of calling my son to give him the test results. So we are going to go to Scotland. We're going to go to Scotland in the middle of the 1800s. The middle of the 1800s in Scotland was a period of time that we now know as the Highland Clearances. And Highland Clearances came about this way, for those of you that aren't familiar with it. Almost all of the land up through the middle of Scotland, excluding the coast, but everything up through the middle, north to south, was owned by just a handful of landowners. Massive, massive tracts of land. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of acres. They were huge tracts of land. And they broke them up into smaller pieces of land that they called crofts. And the people that lived there were called crofters. Think sharecroppers here in America. They would have a piece of land that might be 5 or 6 acres, they might have 20 acres. They would raise animals or vegetables, or they would do something with the land in order to sustain themselves and their family. And every year they would go back and they would pay the landowner a tax or a fee for the use of the land. And that worked really, really well for hundreds of years. But in the middle of the 1800s, the landowners kind of all got together and figured out that if we had one really big piece of land and we just raised sheep and took care of it ourselves, we could make a lot more money than we're making with all these crofters. So we need to consolidate the land, and we need to get rid of the crofters. Well, excuse me, if you have thousands of people living out on your land, that sounds like a big challenge, doesn't it? Think back in those times. Who didn't like the Scots back then? The English. The English did not like, they still don't like us today, but that's another discussion. But the English didn't like the Scottish back then, and they were always going after each other. But the British Army received an invitation from the Scottish lords to come up and attack the crofters. Yeah. Hard to believe, but the English, they were jumping up and down. It was like a free pass, we can come do this now. So up they came, and they went after the landowners. Many of the landowners fought back, they resisted, they were killed. Many of the landowners and their families took off through the mountains, and they just went off and disappeared and popped up someplace else and started a new life somewhere else. Many of the landowners just gave up. And they were all put on ships and sent away from Scotland. They were exiled from Scotland. Those ships came over the ocean, and many of them first hit land in what we know today as the maritime provinces of Canada. If you go up to Nova Scotia today, you'll find a lot of people of Scottish descent up there, won't you? Now you know how they got there. Now you know how they got there. Some of the ships came up the Cape Fear River into the port of Wilmington, North Carolina. Those people got off the ships, went up into the Appalachian Mountains. If you go up into the southern Appalachian Mountains, you'll find a lot of people of Scottish descent there. Now you know how they got there. And now you know how I ended up in Waterbury, Vermont tonight. You're wondering how I'm going to tie those strings together. Right? My great-great-grandparents came to America in the Highland clearances. That's how my family came to America. They were thrown out of Scotland. So there were so many things that happened in the Celtic land back then, as you see as we go through our adventure tonight. The way that they record the event is that somebody writes a song about it. This is a song about the tragedy of the Highland clearances. Hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, Bonnie babe. Once our valleys were ringing with the sounds of the children singing. Sheep bleat late in the evening. Sheilings lie empty and broken. Hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, Bonnie babe. We stood with heads bowed in prayer while fat doors laid the cottages bare. The flames, the fires, the clear mountain air. Many were dead by the morning. Where our proud Highland metal, our men once so feared in battle, stand cowed, huddled like cattle, waiting to be shipped o'er the ocean. No use pleading or praying, now gone, gone, all hopes of staying. Hush, hush, the anchor's away. Don't cry in your sleep, Bonnie Bay. Hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, Bonnie Bay. That was a cheery one, eh? We have a tendency to think of Celtic music in terms of the fiddle tunes that roll by at 180 or 200 beats a minute, or the bang your beer glass on the bar and spill the beer all over yourself song. That's all good stuff. It really is. But there's so much more that doesn't get played and so many stories that don't get told. So that's kind of where I go in the Celtic music world and stuff like that. But, take a little bit of water, because we have a younger one here tonight. Yeah, that'll be you. Look at me like, so I'm going to play you, let's go back to 1600s, back to England, another children's song, or a children's song. This one is one that some of you will recognize. You might have thought it was a Burl Ives song, or a Peter, Paul and Mary song, or something like that. If you go back in the early 60s into the folk singers, they all sang this song. But if you keep tracking it backwards, you will get back to the 1600s. So, that looks great on you.
Just sizing you. Just sizing you.
You don't need to explain it to me. I'm not going to tell you how I do what I do. So this is one that the children would have sung way back then. Ready? Oh, the fox went out on a chilly night, prayed for the moon to give him light. He'd many a mile to go that night, before he reached the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh, many a mile to go that night, before he reached the town, oh. He ran till he came to the great big bin. Ducks and the geese were kept therein. He said, a couple of you are gonna grease my chin, before I leave this town, oh, town, oh, town, oh, a couple of you are gonna grease my chin, before I leave this town, oh. Grabbed the gray goose by the neck, threw the little one down his back. He didn't mind their and their legs all dangling down, oh, down, oh, down, oh. He didn't mind their and their legs all dangling down, oh. Old Mother Flipper Flopper jumped out of bed. Out of the window she popped her head. She cried, John, John, the gray goose is gone, and the fox is on the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. John, John, the gray goose is gone, and the fox is on the town, oh. John, he ran to the top of the hill, blew his horn both loud and shrill, and the fox said, I better flee with my kill, soon be on my trail, oh, trail, oh, trail, oh. Fox said, I better flee with my kill, I'll soon be on my trail, oh. I'm amazed at how many weird old trivial pieces of music things that I know that I couldn't tell you what I did yesterday. But the things that get trapped in my mind are there. But I've got a really cool piece of trivia for you though. And I'm going to tie this into the Celtic world because Paul McCartney is English. So that puts him in the Celtic world. Paul McCartney is still touring. I think he's 83 years old now. He's still touring. He's been touring all of these years. He has his own band. Musicians, if you know any musicians or if you are a musician, you'll know that we are all pretty much creatures of habit. And we do things the same way all the time just because that's what we do. So Paul McCartney's been on the road with the same band. He has a band that he's been together for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, the same people. That's a long time. And they have a routine. And every night before they go on the stage, they meet back in a dressing room somewhere, and they kind of all get together, and they talk about, here we go, we're going to go do this, and it's like, yay, rah, rah. And then McCartney leads them. They all go together to the stage. McCartney leads them in a song as they walk through the backstage area and come up onto the stage. They are all singing the same song. Now, they don't have their mics on, so you can't hear them. Who knows what the song is? I can't make this up. They are singing, "Hey, hey, we're the monkeys." People think we're monkeying around. That's what Paul McCartney and his band are singing as they walk on the stage. "Hey, hey, we're the monkeys." Every night. You can't make this stuff up. People say, "Where do you get your stories?" I say, I just pay attention. Okay. So, let's go to Ireland.
It must have a purpose.
That the monkeys were cool.
But the reason they're singing a song together is to kind of get them ready to perform, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it builds the team thing, you know? Like they need to really be built together as a team. But that's probably one of the reasons why that the band hasn't fractured and split
Right.
apart after all these years. Because they do stuff like that. And Paul McCartney's going to lead us singing the monkey song behind the stage. So now you know something that your friends don't know, and you can tell they should know here. So you can tell them the trivia question, but don't give them the answer.
Gotta Google that.
Let us go to Ireland. 1855. Sorry, check that. 1851. My brain went in a different direction. 1851. A man named Michael Considine was born in County Clare, Ireland. Michael was born in a little village at a rise in the road known as Spancel Hill, Ireland. As he was growing up, he realized, as so many other young Irish lads did, that there was absolutely no future for him in Ireland back then. If you think back in the middle of the 1800s, they had the potato famine and the sickness and the poverty and all the things that were going with it. And people were getting out of Ireland just as fast as they possibly could. Ireland, in a 10-year period, lost 1/3 of their population either to death or emigration. They just left. It was a little over 2.5 million people disappeared out of Ireland. That's a lot. Michael Considine was one of them because he realized he had no future and he needed to go someplace else if he was going to succeed in the world. So he got on a boat or ship and he came across the ocean into the port of Boston. And he was in Boston for just a short time before he realized that there were a lot more Irish lads looking for work in Boston than there was work for them, because they were coming over by the hundreds of thousands and the job market in Boston wasn't growing at that rate. And if he was going to make something of himself in the world, he would need to go someplace else. He had heard of the prosperity, and the money and all that was happening in California. They had the gold rush back then. So across the country he went, and he settled in San Francisco. Michael Considine spent the rest of his life in San Francisco, and Michael Considine died in San Francisco. In 1873, he was 22 years old when he died. History does not tell us what Michael Considine died of. Back in the middle of the 1800s out there, they didn't write such things down. That was not something that they bothered to keep a record of. It was just, you were dead, and that was that. But history does give us this. When Michael Considine was dying, he knew that he was dying. Whatever he was dying from was taking him progressively It was not sudden nor unexpected. So he knew it was coming. And that made him sad for a couple of reasons. The first and most obvious reason was that he was 22 years old and he knew that he was going to die. And that would make pretty much anybody sad. But secondly, he knew that he was never going to go back to Ireland and see his family again. You see, when the immigrants came here from Ireland at that time period, it was a mark of their success in America. Get enough money, enough resources to go back to Ireland and say to your family, look at me, I got out of here. I succeeded in America. I've made money. I can afford a ticket to come back and see you. And those visits were almost always accompanied by money for the family. It was almost like the hero's return as such. And he knew that he was never going to have that moment with his family. And that made him sad as well. Not long before he died, Michael had a very, very vivid dream one night. And in that dream, he went back to Ireland. And while he was there in the dream, he did all of the things that he would have done had he been able to go back to Ireland. He found the house that he grew up in, he found his family and his friends. He even went off and checked in on his old girlfriend to see how she was. It was very vivid and very memorable. And when he woke up in the morning, he took out a pencil and a piece of paper and he made a whole series of notes based on that dream. He wrote the dream down. From there, he took those notes and he turned them into a poem. With all that he had going on in his soon-to-be ending life, Michael Considine had the foresight to make sure that the poem was preserved for all time. And the way that he did that was he put it in an envelope and mailed it back to his nephew in Ireland. Because if he had left it where he was, it would have been scooped up and tossed with all of the rest of his things, and it would have been gone. But it's not. The poem survived. This is Michael Considine's poem. Last night, as I lay dreaming of pleasant days gone by, my mind was bent on rambling to Erin's Isle I did fly. I stepped aboard a vision and I sailed off with a will till we gladly came to anchor at the cross on Spansel Hill. It being the 23rd of June, the day before the fair, Erin's sons and daughters, they were all assembled there. The young, the old, the stout and the bold, they came to sport and kill. It's a curious combination at the fair on Spansel Hill. I went to see my old home, as every stone could tell. The old Maureen was just the same, the apple trees over the well. I miss my sister Ellen, my brothers Pat and Bill. There only were strange faces at the house on Spansel Hill. I went to see my neighbors to hear what they might say. The old were getting feeble, the young ones turning gray. I met with Taylor Quigley, he brave as ever still. He used to mend my breeches when I lived on Spansel Hill. I took a flying visit to my first and only love. She's pure as any lily, she's gentle as a dove. She threw her arms around me, saying, Michael, I love you still. daughter, she's the pride of Spancel Hill. And then I stooped to kiss her, as I did in days of yore. She said, Michael, you're only joking, as you often were before. The cock crew in the morning, he grew both loud and shrill. I awoke in California, far, far from Spancel Hill. And then my vision faded, and tears came to my eyes. I'd hoped to see that dear old land once more before I die. May the joyous King of Angels his choicest blessings spill on that glorious piece of nature, the cross on Spancel Hill. Thank you. I'm coming. I look at this, every night I pick it up and I look out at the people, I should say. And I see either people looking like, what in the world is that? Or the ones that are having repressed memories from middle school. And it's, I can't really tell who's having which, but there's a lot of quizzical looks when I look out there. What is it? Not a harpsichord. It's an auto harp. So you're probably of the middle school, right?
Had one in the basement.
Sorry?
Had one in the basement.
You had one in the basement? So the auto harp, the short version of all this is the auto harp came to America. And the, yes,
I have one.
you have one? You play it?
I would like to play it.
That's not answering my question. I didn't ask you what you wanted to do. What,
I have tried
you've tried to play it?
a long time ago.
Okay. Like how long ago?
Oh,
Like before last week?
probably 30 years.
Ah, okay, so probably not playable much right at the moment,
Why?
because it's gonna be wickedly out of tune. These things are a beast. But they came as a zither in the late 1800s. They came from Switzerland and Germany. They came to America as a zither. And when they got to America, the Oscar Schmidt Company down in New Jersey. You have one?
Yeah, I do. I
Dr.
was
Schmidt.
5 when I got mine.
Huh?
I was 5. That's my first instrument.
Is it black?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Mine-
You got one of the old school instruments.
Yeah, I do. I'm old school.
Well, no. I'll
Mine
tell you
is
this.
black.
Yours black? Yes. So, okay, well now we're into the story now, aren't we? Whether I want to tell it or not. So, the Oscar Schmidt Company, they got a hold of it. The zither had, I forgot, 15 or 14 strings or something on it. And you played it with a pick and you tried to pick the strings. It's kind of like, have you ever seen the kid's instrument where you slide the paper under the strings and you try and pick the notes? It's kind of like a zither, something like that. But the Oscar Schmidt Company got a hold of it, and they invented this whole apparatus here. These are called chord bars. And what they do is they create different musical chords. They wanted to create an instrument in the early 1900s that school teachers could use in the days of the one-room schoolhouse. The teachers were all the females back then because the men were doing other things, and the teachers were women, and they taught all the grades and all the subjects. They needed something so they could teach music. So they tried to come up with something that they could strum as part of their musical day, and people could sing songs, and it would go. Well, it didn't sound anything at all like that, but that was the idea behind it. And it didn't work very well because the instruments were very poorly made, they didn't stay in tune, and the teachers didn't really have any interest in learning how to do that, they were busy enough. So it went away. It popped up again in the musical lexicon in the late 1920s in the Carter family. Sarah Carter played in the Carter family band. She played it as a rhythm instrument, that's the way it was designed to be played. So she would put it up here and she would strum it. It didn't sound anything at all like that because it was kind of poorly made, but you get the idea. And then it popped up again in the late 1950s, again as a school teacher's instrument. This is where yours and yours came from. Because the Oscar Schmidt Company, they were in New Jersey, they still are in New Jersey, they got the idea that if we put auto harps in every middle school up and down the East Coast, every middle school child will get exposed to the auto harp. They will love it, and when their birthday comes around, they'll want an auto harp. The problem was, or the problem became, that because they were giving them to the schools, they needed to make them as economically as possible. They were cheap. So they made them out of plywood. Plywood has no resonating properties whatsoever. So they didn't sound like much. They didn't stay in tune very well, and the school teachers didn't have much interest in them. But obviously, a couple of them found their way into homes. As I travel around the Northeast, somebody will say, oh yeah, in the back of the closet of the music room in the middle school, we still have some of those black ones. Here's what I ask of people, should you come across one of those black ones, please do not bring it to my house. That has happened. And I look out and there'll be somebody standing on the doorstep with a black auto harp. You're the guy that plays the auto harp? Yeah. Here. And you smile and you say thank you. You can't make them playable. The real old black ones, they weren't playable when they were new. They're certainly not playable 60 years later. But they are the best thing you will ever find to get the fire pit going. They will look like that.
I gave mine to Rosemary Von Trapp. I have it back.
She took one look at that and said, why are you doing this to me?
She wanted something easier than the guitar, but didn't like playing it.
And it popped up, it was in the early folk music groups. Back in the early 60s when folk music and the folk music groups were running around. We talked about the Highwaymen, the Michael rode the Boat Ashore Highwaymen. A guy named Stephen Trott played the auto harp in the Highwaymen group back in the early 1960s. Stephen Trott is still alive. In fact, I saw him 2 weeks ago, he played this harp. 86 years old, it was quite an experience. But that's just the way that it was. Somewhere in the 1980s, we don't know who, we don't know where, we don't know exactly when, somebody came along and said, there has to be a harder way to do this. So I'm figuring it was probably a Scot. Because the Scots will find the harder way to do stuff. So let me tell you, I'm going to take you behind the curtain, I'm going to show you how I do the magic trick before I do it. So there are 15 or so chord buttons on this thing, and each one creates a different musical chord. When I push down the button, it gives me different chords, a different combination of notes. You can hear that. And it does that because on the bottom of each button are little pieces of felt that go down and mute out the strings that I don't want to ring in that particular chord. So, right? I could, well, yeah. So if I do this, I've opened it all up. If I do this, this sounds like 37 different notes. This harp has 37 strings. Your auto harp has 36 strings. You're probably wondering why I have 37. I know you are. It's because I'm a Scot. That's my answer to everything. If 36 is hard, 37 is harder. So when this one was put together, I asked for a 37th string. It's right up here. That's my 37th string. But if I do this, it just sounds like 37 strings. If I do this, it sounds pretty because I've muted out the notes that I don't need. So let me do that again. And I'm going to do it slowly, and you'll hear the strings that don't ring. They make kind of a clicking sound. about half the strings ring and about half the strings don't ring, depending upon what button I push down. And the palette of notes that I have available to me changes because it's letting different strings ring or not ring. So when I'm finger picking it, I need to hit the strings that are going to ring and miss the ones that are going to go make the clicking sound. That's where the challenge comes from. See if I can do it tonight. You don't think I can't do it?
Yes, you can.
This lady's looking at me like, you don't look smart enough to do that. You're right, but I can do it anyway. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That is pretty cool. It's, the learning curve for this is rather high. Yeah. And if you watch me do this, you'll notice I never look at my right hand, the one that's hitting the strings, never, ever look at my right hand. If you see me look down, I'm making sure that I'm in the right place on the buttons. But I never look at my right hand. And the reason for that is, quite simply, I'm playing with my thumb and 3 fingers. And I'm hitting different combination of notes with each thumb and fingers. And the strings are only that far apart. And if you had to think about what you were doing, you wouldn't be able to go very fast. So you really have to just kind of load it into your brain that this is what I want you to do, and go do it, and I'll get the brain out of the way and let it happen. Let's see if you can spot this one. World War II was breaking out over in Europe. And on the west coast of Scotland, in a little village called Campbelltown, Scotland, was a man named George McIntyre. And George McIntyre was a piper in the village bagpipe band. Every little village in Scotland to this day still has a pipe band, and there was George. But the war was starting, and he did as so many other young men did, and he joined the British Army. They went off to do his part. George went to Germany, and he was not there for very long before he was captured. He was held in a German prisoner of war camp for the duration of the war. He spent his time in captivity playing the village bagpipe tunes over and over and over again in his head. It was his way of staying connected to his instrument, connected to his village, and probably connected to his sanity, because he was in the prison of war camp for several years. While he was there, he wrote a bagpipe tune in his head. He figured out all the fingerings and the chanters and all those different things you have on a bagpipe. And when he got back to Campbellton at the end of the war, he taught it to the bagpipe band. From there, it has taken off. And if you go to Scotland today, you won't hear it much in America. For some reason, it's not played a lot here. But if you go to Scotland today, it's become a very patriotic, majestic, yeah, right, wow, patriotic song. He calls his tune "The Hills of Argyll." Thank you. All right, we're going to go to Wales.
I was hoping you'd sing Flower of Scotland. before you-
Flower of Scotland?
Yeah.
How do you know that song?
It's
That's
the
kind-
national
huh?
anthem. It's the national anthem.
No, it's the unofficial national anthem. The official national anthem of Scotland is God Save the Queen.
My father traveled and worked in Scotland for 4 years, and we befriended some folks from there and was taught how to sing it.
Okay, so,
And I've tried to teach him.
okay, so now we're gonna see how well you do with picking the word. So God Save the Queen, but they ignored that. Flower of Scotland is the unofficial national anthem. What's the one behind that in the pecking order?
Don't know.
There's a third one that's not far behind. It's a newer song, and Flower of Scotland's probably from the 1970s. This one's probably from the 1980s, so it's a little bit newer. Caledonia.
Oh.
Caledonia. Oh, flower of Scotland, that one.
Yeah.
When will you see your like again? Yeah, it's a pretty song, isn't it? I don't know it. I do, I'm sorry. It is a pretty song. We have to hit the other Celtic lands too. We have to include everybody. So let's go to Wales. And I thought about this earlier. I'm gonna do it anyway. Because I was gonna play this Welsh tune, this beautiful Welsh tune. And then Judy played it.
What key do you play it in?
C.
Okay, never mind. I played in D. So I was gonna say we could play together, but I played in D.
I know that because I heard you play it, and I was gonna run up here and grab the harp and went, nah, that's not gonna work.
I thought it worked.
So, Ash Grove. Ash Grove is a beautiful, beautiful Welsh tune. I'm gonna give it a quick go. Just
Yeah,
because-
absolutely.
Yeah, just because it'll sound similar to hers, but slightly different, just because musicians have license to change things. But Ash Grove is another one of those piggyback songs. And it's one of those tunes that's been kind of locked onto by every religion. And you can't pick up a hymnal and not find Ash Grove in there with some words. The Catholic hymnal has it at least 3 times in there with different sets of words. Doesn't make it any less pretty, but we have to check Wales off our list, so we'll go there now. I go a little quicker than you. Let's stay in Wales and do another one. Ready? It's still ringing. Isn't that cool? Okay, so I've had you thinking for about an hour on the missing Celtic land. But I haven't mentioned, there's 5 of them, we've hit 4. Which one have we missed?
The one in Spain,
What?
the one in Spain,
That's not the land, that's a quarter of Spain.
I know.
This is entire island all by itself. There's your hint. Ah, come on, Waterbury. Let me down. No, that only gets guessed maybe a third of the time. The Isle of Man. The Isle of Man is a little tiny little wee island. It's halfway between Ireland and the border of England and Scotland. It's right in the middle of the Irish Sea. It's a small little place. It's probably 8 miles wide at its widest and maybe 25 miles north to south. And it just sits there all by itself. It is a British dependency. That means that in the big picture of the world, it is controlled and owned by Great Britain. But in the reality of the world, they don't want anything to do with Great Britain. They're much like Australia. Australia is a British dependency, but just leave us alone and we'll be fine without you. The Isle of Man is exactly the same way. They have their own language, they have their own currency, they have their own everything. They would just they'd like to see the king and the queen just stay over there where they are and we don't need you here. It's just the way that they are. I went to the Isle of Man last fall. I wanted to see it. It's quite a place. They are what I would call quietly wealthy. You go there and you feel like you're stepping back to like 1970 or something. But they have more money per capita than just about any place in the world because they're a haven for offshore banking. They just don't buy fancy cars and big buildings. I think they bury it in their backyard or something. But it's really an amazing place. If you're in the southern part of the Isle of Man, which is where I stayed, and you want to get up to the northern part where the mountains are, the easiest way to get from south to north is to take a steam-powered train. So you get on the train, and there's really a guy with a shovel and coal. And he's shoveling the coal into the train, and away you go. And as they needed to get faster, they would shovel more coal in. And when you get to the other end of the island, the top end, or if you want to go up into the mountains, they don't want to take the steam train up there. So you get off the steam train, and you get on an electric train with the wires overhead. and up you go into the mountains. And you go way up, there's a mountain, it's very high there. You get up the mountain, you get up almost to the top of the mountain, and if you're lucky enough, I guess it doesn't happen all the time, but I was lucky enough to be on the one where they slowed down, and the conductor said, over there, on that other side of the hill over there, you see that little red spot way over there? There's a little tiny little red spot on the side of the hill. Yeah, I said, that's the house that the Bee Gees were born in. You like the Bee Gees, man? Well, you're gonna like this story a lot. You'll be buying a ticket to the Isle of Man by the time the night's over. So the three Bee Gee brothers, the one, Barry, Robin, and Maurice, were born there. The younger one was born in Australia, I believe. But they were born on the Isle of Man. And they were only there for a couple of years before they moved because Daddy Bee Gee, I've forgotten his name, he was a bit of a shyster. And he was always 1 or 2 steps in front of the sheriff. So the sheriff was after him, so they left the Isle of Man, they went to England, and then they lived in 3 or 4 places in England, and then they found him there, and he went to Australia, and they lived in 3 or 4 places in Australia. We're talking about like a year everywhere. And then they moved back to England, and I don't know what happened from there. But the 3 Bee Gee brothers, 2 of them are gone now, but even the third one, always said that the Isle of Man was their home. They've always recognized that as their home, where they were from. So, I'm over on the Isle of Man, and I'm in the village of Peel. Peel is on the west coast of the Isle of Man. It is their seaport. It's their fishing village, if you will. This is what they go out and do the commercial fishing out there. And it's a Sunday afternoon, and it's a rainy Sunday afternoon, and it's not much going on in Peel, even if the sun's out. So we went into the Maritime Museum, beautiful Maritime Museum there. And there was nobody in the Maritime Museum except the lady that works there. So we engaged the lady that works there, and she was telling her about us, she was telling us about the Isle of Man. And she finally said to us, well, you guys are musicians, because I was with some other people who were music people, and it was like, have you seen the Bee Gee statue? Look how big your eyes got. Told you you'd be buying a ticket to the Isle of Man before we're done. Wait till you hear this part. I said, the Bee Gee statue? She said, yeah, over in Douglas, which is on the East Coast, which is their main city, which is where all the money comes into, there's a Bee Gee statue. She said, you can't miss it. It's right in the middle of the promenade. The promenade is like you picture a promenade to be, so it's right along the coast, right along the ocean. So you got the ocean, and they have a promenade that's probably 40 or 50 yards wide, and it's a park and sidewalks and benches and all kinds of beautiful things going up through the middle. And on the other side of that is a road, and then there's a row of hotels with the big front porches, like you can picture a promenade from like 1940 or something. People sitting in their rocking chairs on the porches. And it goes for almost 2 miles, this big long thing. And right smack in the middle of it is an 8-foot-high statue of the Bee Gees. And I know that it was 8 feet high because I stood next to it. And I could barely reach the top of their heads. So there they were. And their back is to the ocean. They're facing the village like they're welcoming the village. But the lady gave me this little hint. She said, when you get there, make sure you look at the back of the statue. Because that's the part that's over by the ocean. You wouldn't necessarily see that. You can walk up to see them. I said, why? She said, you'll know when you get there. And then she told me why. So we went down there. We trekked back over to the other side. And picture this bronze statue that sits out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 50 feet from the ocean. It's pretty crudted and corroded and tarnished and all of that. It still looks good, but it's not real, it needs some attention. And then you go around the back of the statue. And if you start at the top and you start working your way down, it's corroded, it's corroded, it's corroded, it's corroded, it's corroded, and then you get to the, let's call it the bottom of the Bee Gees. It's just as shiny as Grandma's silver. I can't make this stuff up. So, that happens because when the women go up to have their picture taken with the statue, and they put their arm around the back, They do this while the picture's being taken. And they rub all the tarnish and all the corrosion off the back of the Bee Gees. So it is just nice and shiny back there. Absolutely a true story. I don't need to make any of this up. It happened. So, the Isle of Man, to tangent onto you a little bit, does not have a national anthem. They have never gotten around to writing a national anthem. That's not something that's terribly important to them. However, they have an unofficial national anthem. And this was recorded several times by Robin Gibb with a choir. You're looking like you've not heard this one. The song is called Ellen Vannin, E-L-L-A-N, Vannin, V-A-N-N-I-N. Ellen Vannin is the Manx. Manx is their language. That is the Manx word for Isle of Man, Ellen Vannin. You've not heard that? Oh, you should. When you go home tonight, look it up. It's on YouTube. It's with the choir. Find one with the choir. It's spectacular. It'll bring tears to your eyes. This is Ellen Vannin. Isn't that pretty? This instrument is special to me, but you probably figured that out by now. I can play many musical instruments. I've been blessed. But when the house is dark and quiet and I want to play for myself, this is the one I pick up and play for me. It's just that special. I met my is it grandnephew or great nephew? My nephew's child. Maybe grandnephew or great nephew, I don't know how that works, today for the first time. Because they live in Lebanon, New Hampshire, I was coming through there to get here. So they have a child who's 2 months old maybe. And I hadn't met this baby before. But I brought the harp into their house and I played the harp for the 2-month-old. And his eyes got so big. I have played it for my wee grandson, who's now 1 year old. And he just stops. He'll just stop and stare at me the whole time. It is really that special. So I will pick it up and play it for you again tonight before we go. But we're going to move on. But because we are. No, but you're close. You get the right first letter right. The bouzouki. So, the 1700s and the 1800s, back in that period of time, when the merchant ships would roll out of the various ports in the United Kingdom to deliver their wares around the world, they could be gone for upwards of 7 years before getting back to their home port. That sounds like a very long time, doesn't it? Yeah, sure. But you're thinking about it today. Think about it a couple hundred years ago. And your ship that's in Dublin, and some manufacturer of something has hired you to take a load of their whatever it is to Boston. They load up the ship's going very low in the water, and off they go across the North Atlantic. It's going to take them at least 2 months to get across the North Atlantic. And then when you get to Boston, you have to wait in the outer harbor for your turn to unload. And that could be another month. And then you finally get to the dock, and everything has to come off the ship 1 barrel or box at a time. So that takes a long time. And then you're not going to leave Boston empty. So you go back out into the outer harbor and wait your turn again for another load going out of there. And when you finally get a load, it's probably not going back to Dublin. And you're going wherever that load is going. So if you look at it that way, you can see where you could be gone a real long time before you get back to where you started. Just the way that it was. So we are back to when something happens, they write a song about it. This is a song about an English sailor. His name is John Riley. Fair young maid in her garden, strange young man came riding by, said, fair young maid, will you marry me? This then, sir, was her reply. No, kind sir, I cannot marry thee. I've a love, he sails the deep salt sea. He's been gone these 7 years, still no man shall marry me. He said to her, what if he died or in the battle slain? What if he's drowned in the deep salt sea? What if he's found with another love? He and his new love both married me. She answered him, if he died or in a battle slain, I will die when the moon doth wane. If he drowned in the deep salt sea, I will be true to his memory. He picked her up in his arms, kisses gave her 1, 2, and 3. Weep no more, my own love, I am your love, lost John Riley. Weep no more, my own love, I am your love, lost John Riley. You were expecting that to be another sad one, weren't you? Surprise! You can't play sad music on a bouzouki, it just doesn't work. You have been sitting very nicely in anticipation of this moment. And we're here. Up until this very moment, Judy and I have done all the work. But now it is your turn to sing for us. Even you know. We're going to sing a song, and I'm going to give you just a wee part of the chorus, and you're going to help me sing it, and we'll do it together. It'll be fine. It'll work out just fine. You'll see. But I want to give you the backstory first. I told you a little bit in the beginning about my father and my very Scottish upbringing. My father's name was Donald, a very, very Scottish name, and he had a very close friend who coincidentally was also a Scot, and his name was also Donald, the way that it was. And when I was a lad growing up, Donald and Donald would get together in the house, and they would play the records, the folk songs, and the bagpipe music and the like. And as the night went on, they'd be marching around the house to the bagpipe records along with their friend Johnny Walker. Struck a nerve there, sir, did I? Yeah. Just the way that it was. And then when this one song got played, it would get played a lot because of the song about a man named Donald. And they were absolutely convinced that this song was written about them, and it was not, but they couldn't care less at that point. So we're going to sing that song tonight in honor of my dad, who got me started in all this crazy stuff. And you're going to help me sing the song. This is a song about a man named Donald who lived on the Isle of Skye. It's off the northwest coast of Scotland. It might be the prettiest place you'll ever go in your whole life. You've been there?
I've been around.
Yeah, the Skye is just stunningly beautiful. And this was back a long time ago, and Scots didn't go to England much because, well, you know why. But Donald decided he was going to go on vacation to England because he wanted to see it. And he didn't care much that they didn't like Scots down there. He was going to go, and off he went to London, wearing his kilt. And that created quite a stir, because if you think about it, the women in England had never seen a man wearing a kilt. The men, the warriors, had seen men wearing a great kilt and Highland kilt and all of that. But the women had never seen a man wearing a kilt. This was something very new and different to them. And they kept wondering where his trousers were. So they would look at him and they would say, Donald, what are your trousers? It's just the way that it was back then. So they memorialized it with a song. Donald in his kilt and his no trousers. And you're going to help me sing it. It's okay. It's not, it'll be fine. You don't have to block his ears. I'm going to sing the first line of the chorus. I will give you the second line of the chorus. And then I'll do the rest. Easy enough? Right? So the first line of the chorus is mine. I will sing to you, let the wind blow high. Would you like to share with us what you're laughing about, man?
He already knows.
People sometimes ask me, why don't you wear a kilt when you play? I go, really? You think that would be a good idea? And you will sing back to me, let the wind blow low. Yep. Goes like this. You got your part? Let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low. Just like that. Let the wind blow high. Let the wind blow low. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, what are your trousers? I just come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm no very big and I'm awful shy. Lassies shout when I go by, Donald, where's your trousers? Let the wind blow high. Let the wind blow low. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, where's your trousers? Well, I went down to London town and I had some fun in the underground. Ladies turned their heads around saying, Donald, what are your trousers? Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, where's your trousers? Well, the lassie took me to a wall. It was slippery in the hall, and I was afraid that I might fall, for I wasn't wearing my trousers. Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, where's your trousers? Well, the lassies want me, everyone. Let them catch me if they can. You can't put the bleaks on a Highland man, cause they won't wear no trousers. Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, where's your trousers? Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, hello, Donald, where's your trousers? That was really, really good. I don't do this every night just because sometimes it doesn't go well. But it did tonight. So, I'm going to reward you with another sing-along. We're going to do an Irish sing-along. And this time you're going to have the whole chorus. The whole chorus, not just a piece of it. All right, you ready? I don't know why I do that because you never know if this is in tune or not. It's close enough. Okay, you ready? This is your part. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. We'll all be feeling merry when I marry Mary Mac. That's your part. I've got the rest.
No problem.
No, huh? All right. Stop snowing. We'll do it the easy way. I will sing Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. You will sing back to me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. Okay? Got it? You're not looking the least bit. Here we go. You ready? Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. Just like that. Ready? Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. I can work with that. We're gonna marry for my Mary to take care of me. We'll always feeling Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Well, there is a little lass and her name is Mary Mac. Make no mistake, she's a girl I want to attack. And a lot of other fellas try to get up on her track. And I'm thinking that I'd have to get up early. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making Mary You're getting worse, not better. I'm gonna marry you, you will always feel very well. I marry you. I knew this was a bad idea. Well, this little lass, she's got a lot of class. She's got a lot of brass, and her father thinks some gas, and I'd be a silly ass if I let the matter pass. Her father says he treats you really fairly. Here come Mary Mac's father's make a Mary Mac marry me. Some of you aren't even trying anymore. I'm gonna marry you, I'm married to take care of you. Remember, I'm the only person in this room that can see everybody. Well, I know who's trying and who's not trying. And if you don't think that I would single you out, you're wrong. Well, Mary and her mother go an awful lot together. In fact, you hardly ever see the one without the other. And all the people wonder if it's Mary or her mother or the both of them together that are courting. Mary Mac's father's make a Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary, for my Mary to take care of me. We'll all be feeling Mary when I marry Mary Mac. All right, that was good. Let's take a wee detour. Let's do a sea shanty. You might know this one. Ready? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Lie in the morning shore, that's easy. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Early in the morning. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Early in the morning. Here we go. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you for trying. Are you having fun tonight? Good, good. Thank you. But if you are having fun tonight, it's not me. Well, I guess part of it's me, but you know, I am here because of the efforts of Judy and Rachel and the friends of the library. So thank you. This is part of my going off the road adventure, my last run. And Judy made sure that I was here one more time. So if you're having fun, it's because of them, not because of me. And it's been an honor to play for. I'm not anywhere near done, by the way. We still got a ways to go. It's cool. It's cool. It's time.
It's lovely to see how much you love music.
It is. Oh, I love the playing part. It's not the playing part that's finally got me. It's the miles and the hotels and all that. I'm just tired of all that. And it's, you know, it's just the way it is. You know, did any of you see the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary
Yeah.
special?
Yes.
See Paul Simon?
Yep.
Somebody should have told him to go home a little while ago. True? Yeah. Yeah. It was Paul Simon on that. It was sad. It was sad to see that. Paul Simon opened it up, and man is amazingly talented, but he shouldn't be out there singing anymore. So,
I hope to see you again.
so let's go back to England.
Should have said that about Paul, I think.
Yeah. Did I know where I'm going next, and you don't, so might become clear in a minute. I'm going to play you an English children's song from the 1600s. 1600s. It was a very well-known children's song back then. It was one of those songs that every child learned. We just sang Drunken Sailor. I learned that when I was in 4th grade. They were teaching that in the public school. When I was a child. Can you imagine trying to teach something like that in the public schools today? I learned it, and some of you probably learned it in middle school as well. It's just the way that it was. This was a children's song in the 1600s. It's called the Elfin Knight. Elfin-Knight, Elfin Knight. Elfin Knight, translated kind of loosely into the language of today, means small boy or wee little lad or something along those lines. Elfin Knight. There we go. Let's do it again. Go ahead.
I recognize that, not from probably the Elfin Knight.
Well, I certainly hope you recognize it. Pretty much everybody would recognize that, right? And when I played that one little guitar bit in the very beginning, that little riff, everybody thought that I lost my mind. No wonder he's coming off the road. He doesn't know what, he says one thing and he plays something else. Well, I may be losing my mind, but that's not it. The song that you know as Scarborough Fair began as the Elfin Knight in the 1600s. It's the folk process, folk songs, they morph and change as they go through time. The words change, the melody stays basically the same. But there is a Wikipedia page for the Elfin Knight. And if you go to the Wikipedia page, you will find the words from the 1600s. And as you read through the words, you know, it's not, obviously it's not word for word the same, but there's enough bits and pieces in there that you'll know that the songs are connected. See, what happens is the wandering minstrel, like the person like me, who would go from village to village, you would pick up songs here and there, and when you get to the next village, you'd play the part that you remembered, and you'd make up the rest. Remember all. None of this was ever written down. There was no music, there was nothing for you to follow. You remembered as much as you could. So the songs, every time somebody got their hands on it, it was a little bit different. So by the time we got to 1900 or so, they stopped calling it the Elfin Knight, and they pretty much just called it Scarborough Fair. But it kept going as Scarborough Fair. The guitar part that I wrote that made the song so recognizable was not written by Paul Simon. It was written by an English folk singer named Martin Carty in about 1948. He's been around a long, long time. He's still out there in England beating up the road. I don't know how he does it. But when Paul Simon graduated from high school at 18 years old, he didn't want to go to college. He wanted to learn how to be a folk singer. And he knew that the best place for him to learn how to do that was England. So across the ocean that he went, and he got into the London folk scene there. And he hooked up with Martin Carty, and they traveled around England for a while. And Martin Carty taught him the arrangement. Taught him Scarborough Fair, taught him that little guitar bit that you recognized and all that. Paul Simon came back to America. He wrote the second part, the canticle, which is like the call and answer part. And he recorded it, and he made lots and lots and lots and lots of money, and good for him. That was 50 years ago, maybe that all happened. One of these years, he's going to send Martin Carty a check for the royalties for writing the guitar part. That has not happened yet.
Yeah.
That's a little bit sad that he hasn't done that yet, but I can't control that. So, all right, I need water for this one. 1855, John Hunt leaves the family home in Ireland and comes to the United States. He's another one, like Michael Constantine, that got out of there and came here. John Hunt came over, he ended up in Aberdeen, Maryland, which is just a little bit north of Baltimore, Maryland. And he got married, he had a house, he had a family, a job. He spent the rest of his life in Aberdeen, Maryland. John Hunt died in Aberdeen, Maryland. And John Hunt is buried in Aberdeen, Maryland. As I tell you the story and play for you the song that goes with it, please keep in the front of your mind that when John Hunt came here in 1855, he was 13 years old. 13 years old. Let us put that in perspective for just a moment. And let us think about our 13-year-old child or our 13-year-old grandchild or our 13-year-old niece or nephew or just a 13-year-old kid who lives down the street. Leaving home, going to a country where you don't know a soul. John Hunt knew nobody in America when he came here. And he had absolutely no idea at all what he was going to do when he got here. He just knew that if he was going to survive, he had to get out of Ireland, and that was his option. So over he came, and he figured out the rest of it when he got here. John was another one who never went back to Ireland, and he never saw his family again. Back in Ireland was John Hunt's family, and his father, Brian. Brian could neither read nor write, but he had the advantage of living next door to the schoolmaster in their little village in Ireland. And every year he would go over to the schoolmaster's house and dictate to him a letter. All of the comings and goings of the family, who got married, who had kids, who bought a house, who died. All the kinds of things that we do today instantly with a text message. Think about that. We can send text messages all over the world and they get there instantly. And back then, the communication was one letter once a year. Just the way that it was. And every letter that went to John had a request in there for him to come home, see his family again. And he never did. He never saw each other. Fast forward to about 1973, and a man named Peter Jones is cleaning out a house in Aberdeen, Maryland. And in that house, he finds a stack of old papers. Those papers were the letters that had been written to John Hunt all of those years earlier. So he took those letters, there's 22 of them, I think, in the series. He took those letters, and he laid them all out, and he figured out how to put them in chronological order, from beginning to end. And he turned them into something that we know today as the Ballad of Kilkelly, Ireland, the story of the Hunt family. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1860, my dear and loving son John. Your good friend the schoolmaster Pat McNamara, so good to write these words down. Your brothers have all gone to find work in England. The house is so empty and sad. The crop of potatoes is sorely infected, a third to a half of them bad. Your sister Bridget and Patrick O'Donnell are going to be married in June. Your mother says not to work on the railroad. Be sure and come on home soon. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1870, my dear and loving son John. Hello to your missus, to your 4 children, may they grow healthy and strong. Our Michael has got in a wee bit of trouble. I don't think that he'll ever learn. Because of the dampness, there's no turf to speak of. We have nothing to burn. Bridget is happy and ain't the child for her, you know, she's got 6 of her own. You say you found work, you don't say what kind. When are you coming home? Kilkelly, Ireland, 1880, Michael and John, my sons. I'm sorry to give you the very sad news. Your mother's passed on. buried her down at the church in Kilkelly. Your brothers and Bridget were there. You don't have to worry, she died very quickly. Remember her in your prayers. It's so good to hear that Michael's returning. With money he's sure to buy land. The crop has been poor and the people are selling at any price that they can. Kilkelly, Ireland, 18 and 19, my dear and loving son John. I suppose that I must be close on to 80. 30 years you've been gone. Because of all of the money you sent me, I'm still living out on my own. Michael has built himself a fine house. Bridget's daughters are grown. Thank you for sending your family picture. They're lovely young women and men. Why don't you think about coming to visit? A joy to see you again. Kilkelly, Ireland, 18 and 92. My dear brother John, I'm sorry I didn't write sooner to tell you. Father is gone. He was living with Bridget. She said he was cheerful, healthy right up to the end. You should have seen him play with the grandchildren of Pat McNamara, your friend. We buried him alongside of Mother down at the Kilkelly churchyard. He was a strong and a feisty old man, considering his life was so hard. It's funny the way he kept talking about you. He called for you at the end. Why don't you think about coming to visit? We'd all like to see you again. That one is special. That one is very special. And over the, I don't know, I can tell you how many decades I've been playing that song. But over the decades, that song has attached itself to me in many, many ways. And it's one that I've achieved some level of notoriety for. Yay me, but I don't, you know. That's really not important to me, but I want to share one story about that with you. Because of that, about 16 or so years ago, I was given the opportunity to see the letters. Yeah, I've seen the letters. And while I saw them, I was allowed to transcribe the letters, which was a bit of a challenge because the paper was smudged and folded and faded and yellowed and all of those different things. But I got it. I got most of it. It was fun to do that. And I tell you all that to tell you this. Over there on that table, there's a pile of cards with my picture on one side and a bunch of information on the back. And one of the things that's on the back is my website address. Excuse me. If you go to my website, there's a page on the website for Kilkelly, Ireland. You'll find it right where all the things are across the top and tell you where all the pages are. There's a page for Kilkelly, Ireland. And if you go to the Kilkelly, Ireland page, on that page, you will find the transcriptions of the first and last letter. They are there for you to read, and you get a flavor of it and a feeling of the language of the day. And if that really gets you interested, there's also one of those little internet button things that push me, and you click it, and it should pop up an email window all addressed to me. All you have to do is fill in your information, tell me that you met me up here in Waterbury, and my gift, my thanks to you for coming tonight will be to send you a PDF file of all 22 letters. And you may have them all and read them and share them and do what you wish with them. I was allowed to see them and transcribe them for the sole purpose of sharing them. Make sure that people see them. If you Google Kilkelly letters, that will also take you to me. probably the top search for that. So if you have any interest at all, take advantage of it. Because I am the source for the letters, I have heard from people all over the world. Yeah, people, they hear the song, they know that there's letters, what those letters say, they find me, and I'm happy to send them the letters. And I couldn't tell you how many times, thousands of times I've sent the letters out, pretty much to every corner of the world. I never get tired of it, it's okay. I do that, it's something that I can do. But I'm gonna share one of those stories with you tonight. 7 years ago now, I got an email one afternoon from a man who lived just outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Small little town right down in the bottom corner of New Jersey. He's Googled Kilkelly letters, he found me, and when I sent him the file of letters, and of course I was happy to do that. You know, the internet's kind of amazing, because when you push the send button, it's like seconds when it pops up somewhere else. I don't know how it does that. But literally within 2 minutes, I had a response from him. So this all happened very quickly. You remember the part of the song about the brother Michael who went off and got in trouble and he got a house and you know, Michael had kind of a prominent role in the song? This man in New Jersey is Michael Hunt's great-grandson. The Hunt family knew of the song. They knew the song was based on letters. They did not know that the letters existed in any form. So I was able to give the Hunt family the letters, transcription of the letters. Now you know why the song's important to me. Now you know why I play it every day. He and I communicated quite a bit over the ensuing years. Sadly, COVID got him, and that was a little bit sad. The story that I told you in the beginning about John Hunt coming to America at 13 and didn't know anybody and had no idea, that came from him. That is the family story. Is it accurate? I don't know, but that's the family story. And if it's good enough for them, it's certainly good enough for me to tell that. So if you have any interest at all, please take advantage of reading the letters. I have played that song, as I said, every day in all kinds of places. I have played it in rooms packed to the wall with Irish grandmothers. When I play that song, I will always look up and watch the emotion building in the room. It does, and that's okay. If I ever look up and I don't see emotion building in the room, I'll know that I'm not telling the story very well. So that's okay, that's supposed to happen. But I will share something that I've learned about Irish grandmothers playing it with rooms full of them. An Irish grandmother can hide an entire box of Kleenex on her person. You know somebody like that, don't you? I will start playing the song, and I never look up until about the third verse. In the third verse, I will look up, and they're already down here. And they're up here, and they're up here. And they're passing it back and forth. And sometimes in the back of the room, it looks like it's snowing with the Kleenex. Sometimes I have to go back and just start looking at the floor again, because I can't look up and smile in the middle of that song. That would not go well. So, it has been an honor and a privilege for me to play for you tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thanks to the friends and the cookie people and all that. It takes a lot for something like this to happen. And they made it happen, and they made it very easy for me. And I will tell you that not every place makes it easy. So I am very pleased that this is part of my last run, so thank you. I'm going to go back to this. When the Scottish musicians get together, doesn't matter where in the world we are, I've done this here, I've done this in Scotland, I've done it in all kinds of places, we always play the same thing last. Why, you ask? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I just know that when we get to it, we're done. So this is a Scottish song. You'll know it. We sing it in America at the end of the year. It came from Robert Burns, the great poet. Peace and joy be with you. Good night. Irish or Scottish? Irish? Irish?
Well, amazing.
I'm both.
Irish sea shanty, called South Wind. You're not leaving.
Sit down.
Okay, so how much capacity do you have in that video thing here? I can play here all night. One more, this will be a comment. This is, I'll play this, we go to Scotland now. This is a Scottish boat song. Boat songs are the songs that they used to write for the sailors, and to Scotland, they would write them for all the different islands. There would be an errant boat song and a sky boat song in all those different places. The sky boat song is the most common one. You ever watch Outlander? The beginning of Outlander is the sky boat song that they piggybacked and wrote their own words for it, but it's the sky boat song. So we're not playing that one. Fooled you. I'm going to play the errand boat song. And this happened last March, when I run last March, a year ago. I was in a hotel in Foxborough, Massachusetts, on my way from someplace to someplace. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the errand boat song playing in my head. And I thought, as I rolled over, I thought, that would sound really good on the harp. Now, most people would have just said, look, we're supposed to think on that. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wrote this arrangement at 3 o'clock in the morning in a hotel in Foxborough, Massachusetts. This is the errand boat song. How are you, everybody? Thank you, thank you, thank you.